The clock showed 1 a.m. when someone banged on my door. I jumped from my bed. My daughter stood there shaking. Her face was hurt and her clothes were torn. She fell into my arms crying. "Mom, he hurt me because of another woman." I held her tight. I brought her inside and sat her down. Then I walked to my closet. I put on my police uniform slowly. I grabbed my phone. I called my friend who is a lawyer. "We start now," I said. "Everything we talked about begins tonight." Before we begin, if you like this story, please hit the like button. Tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I want to know how many people hear our story. Subscribe to Granny's Echoes for more true stories that need to be told. I had been sleeping on my couch that night. Work had been very hard. I am a police officer in our small town. That day I helped stop a big fight at the market. Then I had to write papers about it until very late. My body was so tired. All I wanted was to sleep and forget about the day. Outside my window, I could hear dogs making noise. Some teenagers were riding their bikes really fast down the street. The clock said it was already 1 in the morning. But our neighborhood never sleeps early. People were probably sitting outside talking and drinking soda like they do every night. Closed my eyes. I tried to block out all the sounds. I just wanted my brain to rest for a few hours. Then someone started hitting my door really hard. Bang, bang, bang. My heart started beating fast. Got scared. Who would come to my house this late? I stood up quickly. I grabbed a heavy book from the table just to be safe. "Who is knocking?" I shouted through the door. My voice shook a little. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew something bad was happening. Nobody answered me. Then I heard more knocking. This time it was softer and weaker. Then I heard a voice I knew very well. It was shaking and crying. "Mom, please open the door." "It's me." My hands shook as I unlocked the door. When I opened it, my daughter Lucy fell right into my arms. She was shaking all over like a scared puppy. I held Lucy close to me. Her whole body felt weak, like she had no energy left at all. "Lucy, what happened to you, sweetie?" I asked. My voice was breaking. The light from my porch was bright enough to see her face. What I saw made me stop breathing. Her mouth was bleeding. One of her eyes was black and purple and almost closed. She was holding her side with both hands like something really hurt there. "David hit me. Because of that other woman," Lucy whispered to me. Then she started crying really hard. My heart broke into pieces. This was my daughter. The little girl I raised and loved more than anything in the world. Now she was standing in front of me completely broken. I helped her walk inside my house. I laid her down on the couch carefully. I ran to get a wet cloth and my first aid box. "Don't move, honey. Let me look at you," I said. I was trying to stay calm, but inside I was crying. I cleaned the blood from her mouth gently. But more blood kept coming out. The cut was really deep. It wasn't just on her skin. Felt like my own heart was cut too. Lucy kept holding her side. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Slowly I moved her hands away. I lifted up her shirt a little bit. Oh my goodness. I almost dropped the cloth. There was a huge black and purple mark on her side. It looked like someone had hit her many, many times. Very hard. I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was like someone had hit me too. "Lucy, who did this? Was it David?" I asked. My voice was shaking with anger and sadness. Lucy didn't answer with words. She just cried and cried. Her crying filled up my whole house. Without thinking anymore, I picked up my phone. I called Dr. Martinez, who works at the emergency hospital. "Dr. Martinez, please get ready. I am bringing my daughter to you right now," I said quickly. My car was at the repair shop getting fixed, so I called for a taxi to come get us. While we waited, I sat next to Lucy on the couch. I put a warm blanket over her so she wouldn't feel cold. Her phone kept lighting up on the table. I looked at it from the corner of my eye. There were 9 missed calls from David. There were also some messages that I could see on the screen without unlocking it. "Keep your mouth shut or you will be sorry." I felt my blood get hot with anger. I reached out to grab her phone. I wanted to see what else he had said to her. But Lucy, even though she was so weak, grabbed the phone away from me really fast. "Mom, don't look at it. It's nothing," she said. She looked at me with scared eyes. Like if I touched that phone, something terrible would happen. I didn't push her. I just held her hand to make her feel safe. "I am here, sweetheart. Nothing bad will happen to you now," I said. But inside my heart, I knew this had already gone way too far. When the taxi came, I helped Lucy get inside. I put my arm around her to hold her up, carried a bag with my other hand. During the ride to the hospital, Lucy put her head on my shoulder. She kept saying over and over, "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't want to bother you so late. But I couldn't stay there anymore. I had to run to your house." Every word she said felt like a knife in my heart. I am her mother. I promised to keep her safe her whole life. Now she had to run to me in the middle of the night, hurt by the man I thought I could trust. The taxi stopped in front of the hospital. A big bright sign said, "Emergency Room," in white letters. I helped Lucy get out of the car. My daughter could barely walk. Her body was still shaking. She was still holding her side like she was trying to hold herself together. I squeezed her hand. I tried not to let her see that my eyes were filling with tears. "I am right here with you. Don't be scared," I whispered. But I was scared too. Dr. Martinez was already at the door waiting for us. She looked at Lucy, then looked at me. Her face showed she was worried. But she didn't say anything. She just waved her hand for a nurse to come help. The nurse took my daughter to a room to check her. Followed behind them. My feet felt so heavy like they were made of rocks. When the nurse took off Lucy's jacket, I almost made a sound. Besides the marks on her face, her arms and neck had more purple and red marks. They were everywhere, like someone had hurt her over and over again. I stood there frozen. I held on to the edge of a table. I was trying to keep all my anger inside me. "What did that terrible man do to you?" I thought in my head. But I didn't say it out loud. I didn't want to make Lucy cry more. Dr. Martinez looked at each hurt place carefully. Her face was very serious. "We need to take special pictures of her bones. I want to make sure nothing is broken inside," she said in a strong voice. I nodded my head. I didn't say anything. I just watched Lucy lying there with her eyes closed. It looked like she was trying to escape from reality. While I waited for the results, I went down to the front desk. I had to sign papers and pay some money first. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket. I looked at the screen. It was a number I didn't have saved. But I knew exactly who it was. If someone was calling right now, right after Lucy came to my house, it had to be David. Anger rushed through my whole body. I pressed the button to hang up. I didn't answer. He didn't deserve to talk to me. Not after what he did to my daughter. When I got back to the room, Lucy had fallen asleep. Probably because she was so tired. I pulled the blanket up higher on her. My hands were still shaking. Looking at her face, I remembered the Lucy from before. The happy little girl who used to run around my garden shouting, "Mom, watch me." Now that beautiful smile was gone. All I saw was hurt and fear on her face. I sat in the chair next to her bed. I watched her sleep. My heart felt like it was in a million pieces. I am her mother. I promised I would always protect her. I felt like I had failed. I let her marry a man like David. I blamed myself so much. But at the same time, a small fire started burning inside me. I couldn't let my daughter keep suffering like this. Not ever again. After the doctors gave her medicine through a tube in her arm, Lucy got a little better. I took her back to my house. I made her a glass of warm milk with honey. I put it next to her bed. Then I closed her door quietly to let her sleep. It was almost morning now. A tiny bit of light was coming through my window. I went outside to my front yard to clean up a little. I saw Mrs. Chen, my neighbor who lives across the street. She was sweeping her driveway. When she saw me, she walked over quickly. Her voice sounded worried. "Did something happen at your house last night, Margaret? I heard someone knocking really loud and crying," she said. I took a deep breath. I told her that Lucy had been hurt by her husband, that he kicked her out of their house, and she had to come here in the middle of the night to be safe. Mrs. Chen's face got angry. Her eyes looked mad. How could he treat his wife like that? That man should be ashamed of himself. He nodded. I didn't say much more, but I felt good that I had someone on my side. Then I remembered something. Mrs. Chen has a camera at her front door. Hey Mrs. Chen, does your camera record at night? Did it maybe catch anything last night? I asked her. She nodded right away. She opened an app on her phone. She showed me the video. I used my phone to record what was on her screen. It showed Lucy at my door knocking and knocking. You could hear her crying softly in the night. Seeing that video made my heart hurt all over again. But at the same time, I knew this would be important proof of what happened. I took Mrs. Chen's hand and thanked her with all my heart. She just patted my hand back. Don't forget to make sure that girl gets justice. I believe you can do it, she said firmly. I went into my bedroom. I opened my closet and looked at my police uniform hanging there neatly. The blue shirt, the dark pants, the belt, and the gun holder. Everything looked like it was waiting for me to put it on. I took each piece down. I felt the rough cloth under my fingers. Without making any sound, I changed into my uniform. I buttoned each button carefully. Put on the belt. Every single movement felt like I was making a promise. I wasn't just Lucy's mother anymore. I was also a police officer. And I would use everything I had to protect my daughter. When I was done getting dressed, I picked up the phone. I called Thomas Wright, our family lawyer. His voice sounded sleepy when he answered. Hello, he said. Kept it short. Thomas, we need to start the plan right now. He was quiet for a second. Then he asked, Margaret, are you really sure about this? I answered without waiting even 1 second. Yes, completely sure. Get everything ready. Hung up the phone. I went to my living room. I took my camera out of a drawer. I walked to Lucy's bed. I carefully pulled back the blanket. I started taking pictures of every single hurt place on her body. The bleeding mouth. Black eye. The huge bruise on her side. Every time the camera flashed, I felt like I wasn't just taking pictures of her body. I was also capturing how her soul had been damaged. When I finished taking all the pictures, I sat down at my kitchen table. I spread out all the papers I had. I also had the memory stick with the video from Mrs. Chen's camera. I plugged the memory stick into my computer. I carefully saved everything in a safe place. Sitting there looking at the computer screen light up, I knew that starting right now there was no going back. I had started a war. Not just for Lucy, but for the justice I promised to fight for when I became a police officer. By the time I finished saving the video, the clock said 8 in the morning. Lucy was still sleeping deeply in her bed. Her face was still puffy. Her lips looked dry and cracked. Even in her sleep, it looked like she couldn't escape the pain. I went quietly to the kitchen. I made a pot of chicken soup. The smell of vegetables and chicken filled the air. I brought a bowl to her bed on a tray. I woke her up softly. She opened her eyes. Her eyes looked so tired. She seemed surprised to see me standing there in my police uniform. Mom, she said quietly. Then she shook her head. I don't feel like eating. I sat down beside her. I made my voice as gentle as I could. You need to eat to get strong. To move forward, you have to eat something. Lucy looked at me. Her eyes got watery. She took the spoon even though she didn't want to. She swallowed slowly like it was hard. Seeing her like this squeezed my heart so tight. Just a few years ago, Lucy was a bright and happy young woman. Always smiling. She made our house feel full of joy. Now she was here, broken into pieces. Just a shadow of who she used to be. I decided to take her back to the hospital for another checkup. The big bruise on her side really worried me. Dr. Martinez saw us again in the emergency room. Her face was serious, but she didn't talk much. She asked for special body scans to make sure Lucy wasn't bleeding inside. While we waited for the results, I sat in the waiting area. I took out my computer. I connected the memory stick. The video appeared on my screen. At 1:02 in the morning, Lucy was at my door hitting it desperately. Her quiet crying sounds came through the speakers. Watching that video made my heart hurt again. It felt like I was living that terrible night all over again. I copied the video to another safe drive. I put a special password on it. I was careful with every single detail. I knew what I was doing wasn't just to protect Lucy. I was building a wall of proof against David. Right then Lucy's phone rang. The screen showed David Miller. I felt my heart stop for a second. I grabbed the phone before Lucy could reach for it. I turned it off immediately. Lucy looked at me. She looked so scared. "Mom, if he finds out I told anyone, he won't leave me alone," she said. Her voice was shaking. Just saying his name seemed to make her fall into darkness. I squeezed her hand really tight. I tried to calm her down. "I am here, sweetheart. Nothing is going to happen to you now," I said. But I didn't say more. I just looked at the clock silently. It was almost 10 in the morning. I took the small card out of Lucy's phone. I put in a different card that I had ready at home. I didn't want him to find her. I didn't want him to have any chance to scare her again. The scan results came back a few minutes later. They showed that Lucy had really bad bruises on her muscles and skin. But thankfully, nothing was bleeding inside her body. I let out a big breath. But the relief only lasted a moment. The marks on Lucy's body would heal with time. But the wounds in her heart and soul, I knew those would need much more time to get better. I took her back home. I called Thomas Wright, the lawyer. "I have the hospital papers and the video from the neighbor's camera," I told him straight. He set up a meeting at his office for that afternoon. We needed to put all the proof together. Meanwhile, Mrs. Chen came over with a pot of soup that was still hot. "This is for Lucy to help her get her strength back," she said with her warm voice. "If you need me to tell anyone what I saw, just ask me." I looked at her. I felt so thankful for her real support. My heart felt a little bit stronger. In the afternoon, Lucy tried to rest. But she kept waking up scared from bad dreams. I sat next to her trying to make her feel calm. But she kept talking in her sleep, afraid. David pushed me. And Jessica was there. She was laughing at me, she said. Hearing that made my blood feel hot with anger. "Who is Jessica?" I asked. My voice was shaking. Lucy told me in a weak voice that Jessica was David's other woman. That she had come to their house many times without shame. She would make fun of Lucy. She would make David even more angry at Lucy. Her story felt like a knife stabbing my heart. I had invited David to eat dinner at my house. I thought he was a good man who would take care of my daughter. Now it turned out he was not only cheating on her with another woman. He was letting that woman hurt Lucy in her own home. Sitting by the bed, I took out my phone. I took close-up pictures of the marks on Lucy's wrists. I made sure my watch was in the picture to show what time it was. With every picture I took, I felt like I wasn't just showing her body's hurt. I was also showing the pain my daughter carried inside. I knew these photos would be proof in court. But they were also a reminder to me of what I had to do to keep her safe. In the afternoon, I took Lucy to Thomas's office. I brought a folder with all the proof I had collected. He opened it up. He laid everything on his desk. The pictures of her injuries. The doctor's report. The video on the memory stick. Thomas nodded. His voice was firm and serious. "This is a really strong start. Now we just need to prove he was cheating openly. Then he'll have nowhere to hide." I held my purse handle tight. I knew perfectly well what my next step had to be. I wasn't just a sad mother anymore. I was a police officer. And I would use everything I had to make David pay for what he did. That night, I didn't bring Lucy back to my house. I didn't want her to be somewhere David could find her. Instead, I left her at Mrs. Chen's house. My trusted neighbor opened her doors wide. She promised to watch Lucy carefully. I went home alone. My heart felt heavy. I took off my police uniform. I put on an old sweater and jeans. I tried to look like a regular person, not a police officer looking for proof. I took my camera out of the drawer. I checked the battery and the memory card. Then I left in my old car. Every turn of the wheels reminded me that I was starting a battle. Not just for Lucy, but for the fairness I promised to fight for when I became an officer. I parked my car in a dark side street near Tony's Grill. That was the place Lucy told me David liked to go. The red and blue neon sign lit up part of the street. I sat in my car hunched down low, camera in my hand, waiting and watching. Around 8 at night, David's black truck showed up. Its headlights swept across the alley. My heart started beating fast. But I stayed calm. I turned on my camera, ready to catch everything. A few minutes later, a woman walked out from around the corner. She wore a tight pink dress. Her lips were painted bright red. She had a small purse in her hand. She walked with confidence like she owned the world. I knew right away. It was Jessica Torres, the woman Lucy had told me about. David's other woman. The one who made my daughter suffer so much. David turned off his truck. He got out. He opened the door for Jessica. He put his arm around her waist like they had done this 100 times before. Seeing him like that made my blood boil with anger. He was the one who had sat at my dinner table. The one who called me Mom. Now he was hugging another woman while my daughter was in bed covered in bruises he gave her. I took picture after picture. The neon light from the restaurant lit up their faces clearly. Each photo felt like a stab to my heart. But it was also another piece in the puzzle I was building to expose who he really was. I followed them from far away to a small motel with a blinking orange sign. I didn't get too close. I just stayed back and took a few more photos of them walking into the lobby holding hands. Then I walked around to the parking lot. I took a clear picture of David's truck license plate. I made sure a nearby electronic clock was in the picture showing the time. Each photo was like a bullet. And I knew I had what would leave him with no way to escape. When I got home, I opened my computer. I moved all the photos into a special folder with a strong password. Called Thomas the lawyer. I couldn't hide how determined I felt. I have pictures of him cheating. You can see their faces clearly. You can see the license plate of his car. Thomas answered with a strong voice. Perfect, Margaret. Keep them somewhere safe. Don't let him know you have them yet. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I felt a little bit lighter knowing I was one step closer to getting justice. Just then my phone buzzed. It was Lucy calling from Mrs. Chen's phone. Her voice sounded upset and worried. Mom, he just called one of my friends. He asked where I am. When she said she didn't know, he threatened her too. I'm so scared, Mom. Hearing Lucy say that made my heart feel tight. My daughter had escaped from him. But David was still tormenting her with his threats. I tried to comfort her. You stay calm, honey. Stay at Mrs. Chen's house. I am watching him. I know what he's doing. But inside I knew I had to move faster. I had to act before he found a way to hurt Lucy again. I called Commander Stevens right away. He was a trusted friend at the police station. I showed him all the proof I had collected. The video from Mrs. Chen. Lucy's hospital records. The pictures of David cheating. I need you to send a patrol car to watch the neighborhood. Especially Mrs. Chen's house, I said. My voice was hard and serious. Stevens agreed without any doubt. But he gave me a warning first. Margaret, what you're doing is really dangerous. But if you have enough proof, I'm sure you'll win this fight. Thanked him. I gave him copies of the cheating photos just in case something happened to me. That night I couldn't sleep at all. Not even 1 minute. I sat at my kitchen table. I organized all the information into files. Proof of the injuries. The camera video. The photos of the cheating. Each file was like pointing a finger at David. One more step to bringing him into the light. But in my heart, I couldn't stop feeling the pain. I had once thought of him as family. I believed he would protect Lucy and make her happy. Now, not only had he betrayed her, he had dared to hurt her. He threatened her. All because of another woman. That pain felt like a deep, deep cut. It hurt me every single time I thought about Lucy's bruises and her scared face. The next morning I took Lucy to Dr. Sophia Reyes, a therapist Thomas had told us about. Lucy needed help to get over the terrible things that happened to her. The days and days of being hurt and scared. I stayed in the waiting room. My heart felt heavy like a rock. Watching my daughter walk into the office, walking slowly with her shoulders down, made me feel like there was a stone sitting on my chest. I thought I was a strong mother, tough police officer, but I hadn't been able to protect her from the man I trusted. That pain, like a slow burning fire, hurt me every time I remembered Lucy's bruised face. While I sat there waiting, my phone buzzed. It was Antonio Ruiz. He was the head of the county property office. I knew him from some work I had done before. His voice sounded serious and a little rushed. "Mrs. Bennett, I probably shouldn't be talking about this on the phone, but I just saw your name and your daughter's name on some land transfer papers. Something seems strange about it. If you have time, you should come see me." I frowned. I didn't understand what he was talking about. Lucy and I hadn't done any paperwork to transfer any land, but a bad feeling made me stand up right away. I told Dr. Reyes I would come back for Lucy later. When I got to the county property office, Antonio waved for me to come into his office. He opened a file. His eyebrows were pulled together in confusion. "There's something odd here. This land was transferred to a Jessica Torres last week. But since you didn't call me to check on it, I thought it was weird." Froze. I felt my blood turn cold like ice. "That can't be right," I said. My voice was stuck in my throat. "Lucy and I never signed anything." Antonio shook his head. He handed me the file. "The signatures are here, with your name and your daughter's name. And the paperwork is already filed." I took the paper. I saw shaky signatures that looked nothing like ours. They were fake. I asked right away, "Who brought these papers in?" Antonio answered in a quiet voice. "The worker told me it was your son-in-law, David. He said you asked him to handle it because you were too busy." Hearing that made my blood boil with rage. David hadn't just hit Lucy. He hadn't just cheated on her with another woman. He had dared to fake our signatures to steal our land. My father's land that he left us. What my family had cared for and protected for many, many years. I tried to stay calm. I asked Antonio for a copy of the file. He sighed and made me copies. "Someone from inside this office must have helped him do the paperwork," he said. Before I left, he whispered really quietly, "Margaret, this is dangerous. Be careful. Don't let anyone in the office know I told you this." He nodded. Thanked him. I promised I wouldn't tell anyone his name. But inside I felt like I was walking on broken glass. Every step was dangerous. David wasn't just a man who hurt people. He was a cheater and a liar. He was willing to do anything to get what he wanted. In the afternoon, I went to pick up Lucy from her therapy session. She looked tired, but her face didn't look as panicked as before. I took her straight to Lawyer Thomas's office. I brought the copy of the fake papers with me. Thomas looked at them carefully. He tapped his fingers on the desk. He said in a firm voice, "This is the final piece we needed. Now we also have proof of fraud. He has no way to escape now." Lucy sat next to me. She listened quietly, but her eyes filled up with tears. "Mom, he dared to fake our signatures to steal Grandpa's land," she said. Her voice was shaking. She felt hurt and angry at the same time. I took her hand. I squeezed it tight. I tried to give her some of my strength, but I was also fighting my own pain inside. That land wasn't just property to me. It was a memory. It was my father's hard work and sweat. It was something our family had protected for so many years. And David had dared to step all over it, just because of his greed and his betrayal. That night, I met with Commander Stevens again. I gave him the copy of the fake papers. He nodded. His eyes looked serious. "Your proof is really solid and strong. I promise you he won't get away with this." Thanked him. But I still felt a heavy weight on my heart. When I got home, I locked all the important papers in my small safe in my bedroom. The clock showed it was almost midnight. But I wasn't sleepy at all. I sat in the dark living room thinking about David. About everything he had done to Lucy, to our family. That pain, like a slow fire, burned inside me and pushed me forward at the same time. I knew the time had come. I had to face him directly, face to face. There was no other choice. On Saturday morning, I left Lucy at Mrs. Chen's house. It was the safest place for her right now. Commander Stevens had someone watching outside the house. I knew she would be protected and safe. But my heart still didn't feel totally at ease. I put on regular clothes, an old jacket and jeans, but I hid a folder in my bag. It had all the proof I had carefully prepared. The photos of Lucy's injuries, the video from the neighbor's camera, the hospital report, the copy of the fake land papers. I drove my old car to David's auto repair shop. That was the place where he did his business, where he showed off his power in our town. Every turn of the wheels reminded me that this wasn't just a simple drive. This was a showdown that had to happen. The repair shop was open. A smell of oil and gasoline hit me in the face. Two of David's workers were fixing things on the shelves. They looked at me sideways when I walked in. One of them smiled in a mean way. "Look who's here." The mother-in-law came to visit. I ignored them completely. I walked straight to the back office. David was sitting there counting money. Stacks of dollar bills were piled up on a metal desk. He looked up at me. He gave a fake smile. Well, what brings the cop mother-in-law here? Don't you have real work to do?" His voice was full of meanness. But I didn't care. I hadn't come to argue or chat with him. I put the folder on his desk. Each page was like pointing a finger at him. The photos of Lucy's bruises. The video from Mrs. Chen's camera with my daughter crying in the early morning. The hospital report that showed all her injuries in detail. And the copy of the fake papers he had dared to sign with my name and Lucy's name. David looked at them quickly. His face changed for just a second. But he quickly put on his confident look again. He tried to hide it with a smile that looked down on me. "And what are these little papers supposed to be? I have lawyers who are way better than yours." I looked right into his eyes. My voice was cold as ice. "I didn't come here to argue with you. If you want to see who's right, we'll see each other in court." He jumped up from his chair. His voice got loud like I had hurt his pride. "Who do you think is going to touch me? Who in this town is going to stand against me?" I didn't move. I didn't blink. I looked straight into his arrogant eyes. "I will. Don't think everyone is scared of you like you think they are." The two guys at the entrance started to walk toward me. But I put my hand in my jacket pocket. I showed them my police badge. They stopped completely still. Their eyes looked away from me. David's face turned bright red. He slammed his hand on the desk really hard. He almost yelled, "Your daughter is weak. She deserved to be taught a lesson. And don't think that badge will always protect you." Hearing those words made my blood boil over. He dared to say that Lucy, my daughter, the one I loved more than my own life, deserved to be hurt. He dared to say the bruises and the pain were okay. He dared to make excuses for the night Lucy had to run away crying in pain. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to grab him by his collar. But I held myself back. I didn't answer him. I just collected my folder silently. Put it in my bag. I turned around to leave. Before I walked out the door, I turned back. I said firmly, "Just so you know, from now on the rules have changed. You're not the one who gets to hurt anyone anymore. The law is going to deal with you now." David shouted at my back, "If you walk out that door, you're not family anymore. Then don't complain when I make your life terrible." Stop. I looked at him one last time. I didn't have even a tiny bit of fear in my eyes. "Well then, starting right now, you are no longer my daughter's husband." I walked out into the street. The wind was blowing dust around. Got in my car. Called Thomas immediately. "It's time to file the lawsuit against him." Thomas answered. His voice was calm but careful. "Okay. Get ready. He's going to fight back with everything he has. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. My heart felt as cold as steel. I knew this war wouldn't be easy, but I was completely ready for it. A few days after my confrontation with David at the repair shop, rumors started spreading through our town like wildfire. Early one morning, I went to the grocery store to buy some food. I was trying to act normal like everything was fine, but I could hear people whispering about us. Two women at the vegetable stand were talking quietly. That Lucy probably made everything up. I heard she was always arguing with her husband. That's probably why he got mad at her. I walked past them. They stopped talking. But their eyes followed me like I was the one causing all the trouble. At the coffee shop next door, an old man was drinking his coffee. He shook his head side to side. Margaret is using her police badge to hurt her son-in-law now. That's not right. Hearing those words felt like someone stuck a knife in my chest. These people used to say hello to me every single morning. They used to smile at Lucy when she was a little girl. Now they believed David's lies so easily. I looked down at the ground. I walked faster. I tried not to let them see that my eyes were filling up with tears. At noon, Thomas called me to come to his office. He put a big stack of papers in front of me. His voice sounded serious. David just hired Marcus Delgado. He's a lawyer from the city. Big one. He filed a counter lawsuit. He says Lucy made everything up to take his money, and that you're abusing your power as a police officer. I picked up the lawsuit papers. I saw Delgado's signature in blue ink. It was still fresh and new. The words on the paper were like arrows pointing at Lucy and me. Like we were the bad people. Like we were trying to ruin David's life. Lucy was sitting next to me. Her face turned white like paper. She said with a shaking voice, "Mom, he's trying to make everyone think I'm a liar." Seeing her like that made my heart squeeze so tight. Lucy, my sweet daughter, now had to deal with not only the bruises on her body. She also had to deal with the lies from the man she once loved and trusted. I took her hand. I held it tight. I tried to give her some of my strength. But inside I felt pain I couldn't describe. I thought this town where I was born and grew up would be on our side. But now it felt like the whole world was turning its back on us. In the afternoon, I took Lucy back to Mrs. Chen's house. As we walked through a narrow alley, I saw David's two workers standing there. They were smoking cigarettes and staring at us. One of them lifted his chin up. He said in a mean voice, "You better be careful. People around here believe David way more than they believe you." I didn't say anything back. I just squeezed Lucy's hand harder. I got her inside the house safely. But those words were like rocks thrown at my heart. They made me feel more alone than I had ever felt before. Right away, I called Stevens to tell him about the threat. He promised to send more patrol cars at night to watch the neighborhood. But his voice sounded worried too. "Margaret, you need to be really careful. That guy is trying everything he can to turn this whole situation around." He nodded, thanked him. But inside, I knew I was walking on a very dangerous path. That night, I went to the corner market to buy something for dinner. The owner was someone I had known for many years. She pulled me to a corner of the store. She whispered really quietly, "Margaret, please be careful. People all over town are saying you made everything up just to take the land from your son-in-law." Hearing that made me feel cold all over. The people who had been my neighbors, the ones I had shared stories with for years, now thought I was a bad person trying to steal. I thanked her for telling me. I tried to smile. But when I left the store, I felt like the whole world was falling down on top of me. When I got home, I found an envelope on my doorstep. It didn't have any name or address on it. Inside was a note. The handwriting was messy and scratchy. "Keep your mouth shut or you'll lose your daughter forever." I held the paper in my hands. They were shaking. But not because I was scared. I was furious. I was so angry because David dared to threaten my daughter. I was angry because the people around me were so easily fooled by his lies. I carefully put the note in my proof folder. I knew it would be one more piece to show everyone who David really was. Late that night, I had an emergency meeting with Thomas at his office. He looked at the threatening note. He nodded a little bit. Good. The more dirty tricks he plays, the more he traps himself. But right now, everyone believes him. We need something really strong to change their minds. And the only person who can do that is Jessica. When James mentioned Jessica, I felt a tiny light of hope start to glow in the darkness. Jessica, David's other woman, could be the key to turning everything around. But at the same time, I knew getting her to help us wouldn't be easy at all. I stood there in the dim light of the office, thought about Lucy, about the bruises on her body, about all the lies that were choking us like smoke. That pain, like a slow burning fire, hurt me and pushed me forward at the same time. I wasn't going to let David win. I wasn't going to let his lies cover up the truth. The day after the tense meeting at the repair shop, I found out that Jessica liked to go to a small bar at the end of Oak Street. I knew this was my chance to change everything. To flip the game that David thought he had already won. I put on a baggy hoodie and a baseball cap. I tried to blend in so nobody would recognize me. When I walked into the bar, country music was playing loudly. Cigarette smoke floated in the air. The smell of beer and whiskey mixed together in the room. I picked a table in a really dark corner. I sat down. Kept my eyes on the front door. I didn't want anyone to see me. I didn't want any of David's friends to spot me before I could talk to Jessica. Around 10 at night she walked in. She wore a short, tight red dress. Her lips were painted bright cherry red. She had a fancy drink in her hand. She walked like she thought she was better than everyone else. I looked at her. I felt anger and sadness at the same time. This was the woman who helped make my daughter suffer so much. But at the same time, I could tell she was also just a piece in David's game. I took a deep breath. I stood up. I sat down across from her at her table. Jessica raised one eyebrow. Her voice sounded defensive and a little scared. "Who are you?" I didn't answer right away. I just put an envelope on the table without saying a word. Inside the envelope was a copy of the fake land papers David had made. There was also a bank statement showing Jessica's name. Showed she had big debts. Lots of red numbers. The bank was about to take her apartment. I looked straight into her eyes. I said in a sharp voice, "I'm David's mother-in-law. If you stay on his side, you're going to go down with him. But if you help us and tell the truth, you can save yourself." Jessica laughed at me like I was joking. But the laugh disappeared from her face as soon as she opened the envelope. She saw the papers inside. She turned pale like she had seen a ghost. Her eyes got big as she looked at the fake signature on the land transfer. She saw all the red debt numbers next to her name. Kept talking. My voice was cold but strong. "The police commander already knows everything about this. As soon as the trial starts, you'll be called to testify about the fraud. You could even go to jail for a long time. Is that what you want for your life?" Jessica didn't say anything for a long time. The hand holding her drink was shaking like a leaf. She drank the whole thing in one gulp. Like she needed courage. Then she said in a shaky voice, "David promised he would give me part of the land. He said everything would work out fine. He said I would have everything I needed. But now I see he just used me like a tool." Hearing her say that, I felt a little bit of pity for her. Jessica had made bad choices. But she was also another victim of David's tricks and lies. But I didn't let my emotions take over. I looked at her with serious eyes. "You have one last chance to get out of this mess without getting hurt. Tell the truth at the trial. Tell them what really happened. I'll make sure people know you helped." Right then, the bar door flew open really hard. David's 2 workers walked in. They looked around the room. Their eyes locked onto me sitting with Jessica. They started walking toward us. Their faces looked mean and angry. Without thinking, I took my police badge out of my pocket. I put it on the table right in front of them. "Want to try something? Go ahead and try." The dim light from the bar shined on my badge. 2 guys stopped walking. Slowly they started backing up toward the door. But their eyes were still full of hate. Jessica was breathing really hard. Her face was pale as a ghost. She was holding on to the edge of the table so tight her knuckles turned white. I looked at her. I said in a serious but determined voice, "You see, David can't protect you. He's only going to drag you down into trouble with him." Jessica bit her bottom lip really hard. Her eyes looked torn, like she was fighting between fear and making the right choice. Finally, she nodded her head. "Okay. I'll tell the truth. I'll testify. But you have to promise I'll be safe." I didn't make big promises. I just nodded once. "If you do the right thing and tell the truth, I'll do everything in my power to help you." Called Stevens right away. I told him what happened. I asked him to find a safe apartment outside of town for Jessica to hide in until the trial. Leaving the bar, I walked down the cold, dark street. The wind made me shiver, but inside I felt a huge relief. I knew the battle had finally turned in our favor. David had just lost his most important piece in the game. The morning of the trial, I woke up at 5 a.m. when the sky was still completely dark. I went to my kitchen. I made a light vegetable soup. The gentle smell filled the house. It felt like it was trying to calm down all the tension in the air. I brought a bowl to Lucy's bed on a tray. She was still sleeping. Seeing her there, her face still a little puffy and her lips still dry, made my heart hurt. I woke her up gently. I whispered softly, "Eat something, sweetheart. You need your strength today." Lucy opened her eyes slowly. Her eyes looked so tired. But she nodded. She sat up carefully. I helped her put on a long light blue dress. I put a thin scarf around her neck to hide the bruise that was still there. I fixed her hair nicely. I said softly, "You don't have to keep your head down anymore, honey." Lucy looked at me. Her eyes got watery with tears. But she didn't say anything. She just took my hand like it was the only thing keeping her safe. Outside our house, Commander Stevens was already waiting with a police car. He greeted me with a small nod. His face looked serious but kind. "I've set up cars to follow us, Margaret. Everything is going to be okay today," he said. Thanked him. I felt a little bit of relief knowing I wasn't fighting this battle alone. On the way to the courthouse, I could see people from our town gathered in the town square. They were whispering to each other. Some looked at us with curiosity. Others nodded slightly like they were supporting us. But there were also people who shook their heads. They didn't trust us. The rumors David had spread still hung in the air like dark clouds. I knew that today's battle wasn't just against him. It was also to get back the truth. When we arrived at the courthouse entrance, I saw David standing there. He wore a perfect suit. His face was red. His eyes looked sharp like knives trying to cut us. Next to him, the lawyer Delgado looked calm on the outside. But I could tell he was tense. Jessica was there too. She was standing far away from David. Her arms were crossed. Her eyes looked distant and empty. Seeing her made me remember the night at the bar when I convinced her to switch sides. I felt a spark of hope. But I knew today wouldn't be easy at all. I took Lucy's hand. I led her into the courtroom. Inside, the place was packed with people. The old wooden benches made creaking sounds as people sat down. I saw Mrs. Chen sitting in the back row. She nodded at me. Her eyes were encouraging me, like she was saying she would always be there to support us. Judge Patricia Moreno walked in. Everyone in the room stood up. The air felt thick and heavy. The only sound was the hum of the ceiling fan. It sounded like the heartbeat of the whole room. Lawyer Thomas started speaking. His voice was deep and confident. He presented our case to the judge and everyone in the room. Each piece of proof was laid out carefully on the table for the court to see. The photos of Lucy's injuries showing every bruise. Dr. Martinez's report that explained every hurt place on her body in detail. The video from Mrs. Chen's camera that recorded Lucy's desperate knocking and her crying in the early morning. And the copy of the fake land papers that Romero had given us. When Thomas played the video on the big screen, Lucy's knocking sounds and her quiet sobs filled the whole room. I heard people in the crowd making small noises. Some were wiping their eyes. I looked at Lucy sitting beside me. Her hands were shaking really bad. Her head was down. I put my hand on her shoulder. I squeezed it gently, like I was telling her I was still right there, that I would always be there for her. Lawyer Delgado stood up to argue against us. His voice was sharp and loud. Lucy Miller made everything up to steal money from my client. Margaret Bennett abused her power as a police officer to force people and tell lies about my client. Those words felt like knives stabbing my heart. I wanted to jump up. I wanted to scream that he was lying, that Lucy's bruises were real. But Thomas gave me a look that said stay calm. He showed David's threatening text messages on the big screen for everyone to see. Shut your mouth if you don't want to be replaced. The whole room went completely silent. Lucy put her head down lower. Her hands shook even more. I knew she was remembering all the months she lived in fear. I squeezed her shoulder harder. I tried to give her some of my strength. Then it was Jessica's turn to speak. She walked up to the witness stand. She was trembling. Her eyes looked unsure and scared. David promised to give me part of the land, she said. Her voice was shaky, but you could hear every word. He pushed me to accept the transfer papers. He said everything was already arranged and legal. But the truth is, he faked his wife's signature to steal the land from her and her mother. David jumped out of his seat. He shouted really loud, "You backstabber! You betrayed me!" The court guards had to grab him and force him to sit back down. Judge Moreno said in a stern voice, "Order in this court, or I will remove you from this room." Jessica kept her head down, but she kept testifying. Every word she said was like a hammer breaking David's lies into pieces. Seeing her speak, I felt a little bit of relief wash over me. But I still couldn't help the pain in my heart. Jessica had been part of Lucy's suffering. But now she had chosen to stand on the side of truth. When it was my turn, I walked up to the witness stand. I swore to tell the truth before the court. I looked directly at all the people in the room. My voice was firm and strong. I am a police officer. That is my job. But today I am here as a mother. I will not allow anyone, not even my son-in-law, to destroy my daughter's life and make fun of the law. I pointed straight at David. There wasn't even a tiny bit of fear in my eyes. That man is not a husband. He is not a good person. He is just someone who hurts people and tells lies. The whole room filled with whispers and murmurs. Some of the people who had believed David looked at each other. They looked confused. I saw Mrs. Chen's face. She nodded at me like she was saying I did the right thing. Finally, Judge Moreno stood up to read the decision. Her voice was serious and clear. But I didn't hear every single word she said. I only knew that she gave a protection order for Lucy. She froze all of David's money and property. She canceled the fake land transfer. And she sent the case to the district attorney's office to investigate the crimes of stealing and hurting people. A wave of murmurs and whispers filled the courtroom. David slumped down in his chair. His face turned pale white. Like all his strength had disappeared into thin air. Delgado sat there quiet. He took off his glasses to wipe away the sweat on his face. I took Lucy's hand. I led her out of there. The afternoon sun was shining bright on the courthouse steps. I heard people whispering, "Margaret won the case. Justice won today." But inside my heart, I knew that this victory didn't erase the wounds Lucy had suffered. I only hoped that starting from this day, she could begin to find her smile again. The afternoon of the trial, when Judge Moreno finished reading her decision, the courtroom exploded with whispers and talking. I didn't hear every one of her words. But when I saw David collapse in his chair with his face pale, I knew we had won. The ruling said there was a protection order for Lucy. It froze David's money and property, canceled the fake land transfer, and it sent the case to the district attorney to investigate the crimes of hurting people and stealing. When I took Lucy's hand and we left the courthouse, the afternoon sun was shining on the steps. I heard people whisper, "Margaret won. Justice won." But inside I didn't feel like celebrating. I just felt relief. Like a heavy weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But the pain was still there. Like a scar that would never completely go away. That same afternoon, the police went to David's auto repair shop to arrest him. People crowded the street to watch it happen. Some whistled at him. Others shouted mean things to his face. I wasn't there to see it. But the next morning, when the local newspaper showed a photo of David in prison clothes and handcuffs, the headline said, "Auto shop owner arrested for violence and land fraud." I felt something strange inside. It wasn't happiness. It was more like freedom. He was the one who had sat at my dinner table. The one who called me Mom. Now he was paying for what he did. But that feeling quickly changed to sadness. I had trusted him with my whole heart. I thought he would take care of Lucy and protect her. The pain of being betrayed by family, like a slow burn, still hurt inside me. Jessica left town a few days after the trial. People said she had gone to another city to find work. To start her life over. I didn't blame her for leaving. She had been part of Lucy's pain. But in the end, she chose to tell the truth. David's 2 workers, the ones who tried to scare us, were also arrested for threatening witnesses. The neighborhood suddenly felt much calmer and safer. There were no more hateful looks. No more silent threats following us. But I knew that the wounds David had left on Lucy and me wouldn't disappear so easily. Lucy moved in with me for good. The first few days were really hard. She could barely sleep at night. She would wake up scared every single night. She would be sweating and screaming, "Mom, he's coming to get me." In those moments, I would sit right by her side. I would take her hand. I would whisper, "It's okay, honey. You're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore." But seeing Lucy like that, I saw myself from many years ago. When I too stayed silent about my own pain. I took her to Dr. Reyes, the therapist, every single week. I never missed one appointment. Dr. Reyes listened to Lucy with so much patience. She helped her face her nightmares one step at a time. After a few weeks went by, I started to see a change in my daughter. Lucy no longer covered her face when she went outside. She no longer kept her head down when she walked through the market or down the street. One afternoon, I found her in the kitchen making tacos. As she was folding the tortillas, she was singing quietly to herself. That song, as gentle as a breeze, brought tears to my eyes. It had been so long since I had heard my daughter sing. It felt like the sun was starting to shine into our house again. The town also started to change how they acted toward us. The neighbors who had doubted us, who had believed David's rumors and lies, now greeted me when they saw me. Some came up to me to apologize. Their voices were full of regret. "Mrs. Bennett, we didn't know the real truth. We're sorry." I just nodded at them. I didn't hold any anger in my heart. I understood that David's lies had been really convincing. Not everyone has the courage to stand up to someone like him. Mrs. Chen came to visit us with a tray of homemade cookies. She hugged Lucy so tight. "You're even stronger than your mother was at your age," she said. Seeing them laugh together made my heart feel warm. It reminded me that people's kindness still exists even after dark and terrible days. I kept doing my work at the police station like always. Every daily patrol was a reminder of my duty to help people. Every time I saw a case of someone being hurt at home, I felt even more determined to help other women break their silence. One time I found a young woman crying outside the station. Her eyes were red and puffy. She was holding her purse really tight. I sat down next to her. I said in a soft voice, "You're not alone in this. My mother went through it. My daughter went through it. And I stayed silent once too. But today, I know that staying silent only feeds the monster." The young woman looked at me. Tears were still running down her face. But there was a new light in her eyes. A light of hope. I knew I couldn't take away her pain completely. But at least I could show her that someone was willing to listen and help. A few months later, Lucy felt strong enough to go back to work. She got a job at an accounting office in the town center. That night she came home a little late. She opened the door with a big, radiant smile on her face. "Mom, I got the job," she said happily. I stood up from my chair. I hugged her with all my strength. We both started crying. But they weren't tears of pain or sadness. They were tears of joy, tears of freedom. Seeing Lucy standing there smiling like the sun reminded me of the little girl who used to run after me in the backyard shouting, "Mom, watch me! Look what I can do." I knew the wounds in her heart were still there. They probably always would be. But she was learning to move forward, to find herself again. That night I sat on my front porch. The wind was blowing cool and gentle. I remembered the night Lucy collapsed at my door, her face covered in bruises, telling me in a trembling voice what David had done to her. I remembered the long months of struggle, the sleepless nights, the moments when I thought I would break under all the lies and mistrust from the whole town. But then I looked at Lucy's smile today, and I thought to myself, justice is sometimes really slow, but when it finally comes it can give you back your breath, your laughter, and even your future. I took a sip of my coffee. It was cold by now, but I felt a peace in my heart that I hadn't felt in such a long time. Lucy had come back to me, and even though she carried the scars of the past, she had found a reason to keep fighting, not just for herself but to show other people they can survive too. The story we just told you is made up, but it is based on some real events that happened to real people. The names and places have been changed to protect the people involved. We don't tell this story to judge anyone. We tell it hoping that someone will listen and stop to think. How many mothers are suffering in silence inside their own homes? How many daughters are too scared to speak up? I'm really curious about something. If it were you in my place, what would you do? Would you choose to stay silent just to keep the peace? Or would you be brave enough to face it all to get your voice back and fight for what's right? I want to know what you think. Because every story we share is like a candle. It can light someone else's path in the darkness. God always blesses those who stand up for what's right. And I believe with all my heart that courage leads us to better days. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end of this story. Meanwhile, on the end screen, you'll find 2 of Granny's Echo's most loved stories. I promise they will surprise you and touch your heart. Don't forget to like this video if it meant something to you. Subscribe to Granny's Echoes so you never miss our stories. And please tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know how far our message has reached. Thank you again for being here with us today.